Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the revolution in Bangladesh that happened last August. The student-led revolutionary uprising ousted the hated Hasina regime and her party, the Awami League, and paralyzed the whole state apparatus. It sent the police fleeing and forced the army's top brass to the table. And this was a tremendous victory for the masses, who fought against decades of corrupt rule and a worsening economic situation in the country. However, following this victory, the student leaders of the movement put their faith in, and some have even joined, the interim capitalist government of micro-financier Muhammad Yunus. This is not the way forward. It cannot address the problems facing Bangladesh. Its purpose is to provide a democratic camouflage, to restore order, and at the same time change nothing of the underlying and social and economic structure that led to the protests in the first place. The aspirations of the masses in Bangladesh cry out for a fundamental change of the Hasina system. This means fighting against the entire way that the country is run, with women toiling in sweatshops only to make super profits for the imperialists and for the native capitalists. There are not enough decent jobs for the students, and the masses are working themselves to the bone to pay for foreign debt to the IMF, which is constantly growing. These are the burning questions that brought the masses into the streets. None of them will be addressed through installing a more democratic face like Yunus, because the mess that was left by Hasina is in reality the mess of administering capitalism in a poor country. And to solve each and any of these problems raises the question of how to develop the country. The Hasina regime was hated for corruption and nepotism, and rightly so, but they are not unique to Bangladesh or to her rule. In fact, they are a defining mark of regimes in all oppressed countries. That's because the neo-colonial bourgeoisies act as middlemen for the plunder of their countries, and in Bangladesh, the native rulers crush the masses to maintain the country as a sweatshop for Western imperialist powers. Corruption simply comes with the job. Look at India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Myanmar, or for that matter, Nigeria and South Africa. All of these governments are corrupt to the core, and as long as Bangladesh is run on this model, it is impossible to end corruption. Take, for example, the question of quotas. This is a question that galvanized the student masses, but to solve it, you have to confront the same problem of underdevelopment. Quotas exist because there aren't enough jobs to go around, and the good jobs go to those from the dominant or more powerful groups, which are the upper and middle classes. The quotas in Bangladesh for descendants of the War of Liberation were nepotistic and an affront to the struggle of millions. But even if you abolish the 30% quota, will the jobs crisis be solved? Will a merit-based system provide the students with decent jobs with good pay? The answer is no. The truth is that in all the countries oppressed by imperialism, they cannot develop to meet the needs of the broad masses. There are not enough jobs, and the solution is not to fight over a small pie that cannot feed all of the people, but to grow the size of the pie. And this pie can only grow when the productive forces of society, that is the land, the factories, the banks, are no longer under the control of the ruling classes, whose entire function is to sell the country off to foreign financial interests. A crucial question in Bangladesh is the defense of the Hindu minority. And it's to the credit of the student movement that when reports of violence against Hindus broke out, they organized the defense of Hindu homes and neighborhoods. The attacks against Hindus undermine the prospect of winning the Hindu masses in India to the fight for the second liberation of Bangladesh. Communal reaction spreads like wildfire in South Asia. And so defense of the Hindu minority is a key aspect of the fight for working class power. It's only by championing the defense of Hindus that the Muslim masses can win the support of the Hindus in Bangladesh by breaking them away from the Awami League and its supposed secularism and turning them into fighters against the Hasina system. Building Hindu-Muslim unity has the potential to cut through deadly communal polarizations across the entire subcontinent. Now, Bangladesh is rightly wary of Indian expansionism, and Hasina is being sheltered by the Modi government, which means there are real fears that this pair could get together to undermine the struggle in Bangladesh, because the truth is that a victory of the revolution in Bangladesh will galvanize the masses in India who are suffering under the Modi regime. In Bangladesh, the liberals and the bourgeoisie are clamoring about the rapid decline of the economy, and they're using this as a cudgel against the masses. Yes, the economy is in dire straits, but it's the bourgeoisie that's responsible for the dire state of the economy. The bosses want to get back to business as usual as quickly as possible, to open up the valves of profit. And we say no. Instead of returning to the factories and restoring the status quo, workers must defy this economic blackmail. As Lenin explained, during the Russian Revolution, immediately after the February Revolution, when the economic situation there was also dire, he said, and I quote, "The more imminent the debacle, the more essential it is that the bourgeoisie be removed," end quote. And in Bangladesh, only the working class taking power can bring order to the economic chaos. For the Yunus government, the priority is to restore order and stability to allow capitalist profits to flow again. And this means the restoration of the cops and other forces of the state. The events of July showed whose side these forces are really on. It's a gross injustice to the memory of the martyrs to put these thugs back on the streets. The masses have shown tremendous revolutionary initiative. They maintained social order, provided flood relief, and in so doing, they have seen that another way of running the country is possible. They must rely on their own strength and replace the police and the army with working class militias. The overall lesson that is crucial to understanding the situation is no support to the interim government. With the overthrow of Hasina, Bangladesh faced the question that confronts all revolutions: which class will run society? Will it be the workers, backed by the poor peasants and the revolutionary students? Or will it be the interim government, followed by the reactionary bourgeois parties, who see an opportunity to get back into power with the overthrow of Hasina? To fulfill the aspirations of the masses, the revolution must put the working class in charge of the country, or the situation will descend into reaction. To take the struggle forward, revolutionaries in Bangladesh must apply the lessons of the Russian Revolution. And the first and most important lesson is the need for complete political break with the interim government and all the forces that conciliate it. The Yunus government is an agency of the ruling class, and support to it can only strangle the revolution. In periods of revolutionary upheaval, as you have in Bangladesh, the ruling classes stand to lose everything. And this means, given the opportunity, they will take back the initiative. They will crack down on the masses that dared to challenge their rule. And the interim government is providing an opportunity for the ruling class to stabilize, to clean its house, and to summon the forces of counter-revolution. So, unless there is a decisive break with this government and with all wings of the movement that conciliate it, the aspirations of the masses will be betrayed. Now, however, most of the left in Bangladesh is not drawing that lesson. For example, the Left Democratic Alliance, which is a coalition of socialist and communist parties, places complete trust in the Yunus government and has called on it to, quote, lead the country with the spirit of the popular uprising, unquote. Such trust in the interim government can only strangle the revolution. There are those that oppose the interim government, for example, the revolutionary student youth movement. They know that the Yunus government is backed by the imperialists, and they have written that this revolution cannot succeed without the leadership of the working class, and without that, the emancipation of the masses, especially the workers and peasants, is impossible. This is a correct statement. However, they undermine their opposition by proposing a provisional people's government of anti-Awami forces and representatives of all classes. In other words, they would like to see a government that represents the progressive wing of the bourgeoisie. But the problem is the entire crisis in Bangladesh is a result of the rule of this class as a whole. The Bangladeshi bourgeoisie is materially rooted in and it benefits from the current economic setup of the country and its subjugation to imperialism. This class cannot solve the basic problems that brought the masses out into the streets. It's not enough to oppose the Yunus government. The movement must oppose all conciliation of the bourgeois order. To go forward, the revolution must make a decisive rupture with this class. The revolutionary student youth movement is correct in opposing the Yunus government, but ends up conciliating the bourgeoisie by looking for its progressive wing. And in the Russian Revolution, for example, this would be akin to opposing Milyukov in favor of Kerensky. Of particular note in regard to the Bangladesh revolution is the Revolutionary Communist International, also known as the RCI. Much of what they have written is correct. They call for opposition to the Yunus government, the importance of the working class, placing no trust in the bourgeois state. They say the masses must continue until power is transferred to the students and working masses. The entire Hasina system must go. We agree with all of this. In fact, of all the groups on the left, the RCI comes closest to the tasks of the revolution in Bangladesh, only to duck from the main problem when it is staring them in the face. The entire question boils down to the immediate practical tasks of revolutionaries regarding Bangladesh. To fight for a political split within the movement along the lines of class independence. Concretely, right now, this is posed in terms of the attitude to take to the interim government. The most urgent task for revolutionaries is to convince those who subjectively want to fight for a fundamental change in Bangladesh that such a change cannot come about through trusting in Yunus. In other words, the task of revolutionaries today is to wage the same fight as Lenin in April 1917 to rearm the Bolshevik Party through a complete split with the provisional government and its conciliators. And this is precisely where the RCI fails. Their program for Bangladesh, while formally correct, is not used to split the left on class lines. While they point out that the students were wrong to support the Yunus government, they have no polemics on this question intended to convince the rest of the left. The only perspective they offer for building a revolutionary party is join the RCI, not to split and regroup the left on a revolutionary program. But this is the only way to build a real working class party that can finish the revolution. The question of a political split in the movement along the lines of no conciliation of the bourgeoisie is the decisive question on which the revolution will go forward or it will break its neck. Unity of the left based on conciliating the Yunus government is the greatest danger facing Bangladesh today. So to conclude, the Bangla masses have opened the door to the second liberation of their nation, but success is by no means certain. The movement faces all sorts of dangers, all of which can be reduced to one thing: the subordination of the masses to the bourgeoisie. We say to revolutionaries in Bangladesh and in the diaspora, look to Lenin. Amidst all of the upheaval in Russia in 1917, he was not afraid to be a minority of one and even to split the Bolshevik Party on this question. What is crucial today is that such a Leninist Pole exists and is willing to make this fight. This is the central lesson of the October Revolution for Bangladesh today.